talking.
Okay.
Yeah, Debbie wanted us to read full now, so. Yeah, so it was about, when you receive an offer, or like, how to approach the seller when you have, multiple offers on a property.
I saw where you posted this morning. I thought, I'm gonna watch that. I was farming yesterday all day. I did 238 calendars to send out, magnetic calendars. And I-
Good.
Good.
And then did an email to all my contacts in my email. So I did A and B yesterday. There were like 140 A and B. So like personalize each one,
Right.
you know. And I got 2 responses back from, and I was like, okay, this is, do it. Just do it. I was like, I gotta get something going. It's making me crazy.
Yeah, I'm with you. I went and put, door hangers up. So what I've been doing is, outside of my walkable area, I do mailers.
Yeah.
And I do anything I can walk to, cause my neighborhood's pretty spread out. So like, well, not really. I think I have like 20, 30 houses maybe on my street.
Mm-hmm.
I walk like a zigzag. I figured it's good exercise, I need it.
Yeah. You might meet somebody and get your name out. And,
I've met a lot of the people in my neighborhood, cause
Yeah.
when I had my dog, I'd walk and the people always wanted to pet
yeah.
him. So now I have my little dog, and I do kind of the same thing. She's old, so I can't walk her quite as far, but, there's a couple of people on my block that are renovating,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm pretty sure they're getting ready to sell.
Yep, just fixing it up and
Yeah.
that's
So,
what happens.
I had to give my neighbor a hard time, cause she listed, and I went over and I was like, Debbie, her name's Debbie, which is funny. Like, Debbie,
What are you thinking?
what are you doing? And you put somebody else,
Yeah.
she's like, it's my sister. And I was like, I'm gonna let it
Yeah.
slide this time.
There's somebody in our neighborhood that listed, and I was like, her next door neighbor is on the board, and I see her all the time. She's walking her dogs, and I said, my feelings are hurt that she didn't call me, and she said, it's her nephew. It's like, okay, everybody's related to a realtor.
There's a ton of them.
Yeah.
That's for sure.
But she said, keep sending them out. So I'm getting ready to send calendars. And she said, my husband's an estate planner and he's always got people dying down here. And she said, so I'm gonna tell him to use you. And I go, okay.
Okay. Monday in great detail, as my friend Andy will tell you, and Laura. We went over page 1, word by word. I gave everybody, Jeremy, a yellow highlighter. Now, why we are going through this again is because nobody remembers. So, when I say highlight, I mean highlight. I think, yeah, just beg, borrow, and steal. I think I put some in the other room on Monday, Andy.
You have one there, Randy?
Yeah, I
I get a couple.
This is your business. And if you don't know what this says, or you don't know how to justify what somebody signed, you're never gonna have a closing. So, when we get through this, if I live, this you have to keep, so that when you have to write an offer to purchase, you don't have to text me and say, I don't know what goes in line 2. Because that's why I'm telling you what goes in line 2, okay? Now, Jeremy has had to write several offers. And Jeremy, what happens when we have to write an offer? We choke, right?
Oh, we blank.
Yeah, we blank. So, hi honey, we have to have class in here today because somebody has that room.
That's fine.
Do you have to work?
I can go outside, yeah.
No honey, you can go in this very first office.
Oh, okay. Thank
Yeah, I'm sorry, but
No,
every
it's okay.
conference room is reserved today at 10.
Oh,
Sorry honey.
that's fine.
Close the door and be good. Okay, so. You have to know this paperwork line by line because you cannot counsel a buyer as to what they're signing if you don't. And as Andy said to me on Monday, this is legal and binding. And Andy said, all we have to do is read. One word, read. Now, when you are the listing agent and an offer is emailed to you at 3 o'clock in the morning, don't look at it. Go back to sleep. And when you get up, you have to print it. Do you all have printers?
Yes.
Jeremy? Do y'all have ink?
Yes.
Okay. The first thing you have to do when an offer is presented to you, you have to print it. And you have to get that yellow highlighter. And you have to go through every line starting with number 1. I know what realtors do because I used to do this until it cost me a lot of money. I look at the traffic light because I'm so excited. And I look at page 1 and I look at the offer price. And then I look if they check cash. And then I look at the closing date. And then I get on the phone and I call my seller. And I said, we got an offer for $2 million cash closing in a week. And the seller goes, okay. And I go, okay, I'm gonna forward this to you. Now, the seller heard me say 3 things. $2 million cash closing in a week. But I did not do my job because I did not print this and read every line. Haste makes waste. Not only does haste make waste, haste makes you lose money. There's a lot of responsibility here. You are getting somebody into a 30-year mortgage, or you are getting somebody into a cash transaction. But we don't know what those little rascal other realtors crossed out. We don't know what they typed in that looks like it was part of the offer. Man sits right there. Last year, Jeremy's heard this, it cost him $5,000, Andy, out of his personal checking account. The other realtor had typed in under seller's closing costs, seller to pay $5,000 of buyer's closing costs and prepaid. What is a prepaid? A prepaid is so many months of taxes, so many months of insurance, survey. Well, he never read the offer. He sent it to his seller. His seller did the click, 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 sign in those yellow boxes. Title company prepared a closing statement with $5,000 going away from the seller to the buyer. He never read it. His seller never read it. Oh, this gets worse. We've only just begun, Andy. So he gets to the title company, and the first thing the title company does is go over the closing statement. And so on page 2, the title company had all of these credits for various and assorted buyer costs that added up to $5,000. And the seller says, I never agreed to that. And his realtor said, I never saw that. If I was in that situation, would I say I never saw? No. I'd be like, holy bananas. So the seller said, okay, I'll sign and I'll deal with this with my realtor after. My realtor went outside, did not stay to participate in the rest of the closing. $5,000 is a lot of money for anybody to give up. So his seller came outside and he said, what are we gonna do? He said, you owe me $5,000. They weren't gonna redo the mortgage, are you with me? So my realtor said, well, let me go to my office and see if I can get you the $5,000. Where was he gonna get it? In his trash can? I thought I was gonna die that day, Andy. So he goes to Ruth and tells his whole story. And Ruth said, shame on you. Real estate champions and Ruth Cabela are not giving up $5,000. And that man said, you have to. And Ruth said, no, I don't. So he didn't get any satisfaction from Ruth. So down he comes into my room and tells me the whole story. And he said, you have to give up $5,000. I said, I don't make a penny when you have a closing. What are you talking about? Well, you and Ruth have to do something. I said, Ruth and I cannot do anything, but I hope you've learned a lesson. So he had to go home and tell his wife that they had to take $5,000 out of their bank account to give it to the seller.
Whoa.
And all he kept saying was,
Oh.
I remember, Debbie, you saying, read every word. And I said, well, that was a hard lesson to learn. But it doesn't matter if it's $5, $50, or $5,000. You'll learn when the money's coming where? Out of your pocket. This is why I get so frustrated with agents, because nobody wants to print it. Oh, my printer messed up today. Then drive in your car and come here. I have many printers that you can print, okay? But I know we're lazy. And this is the worst nemesis of our business. When we didn't have this, we didn't have to give up $5,000. We had relationships with the other realtor. We had relationships with our buyer, and we had relationships with the seller. In the olden days before this, I would write an offer on your listing. And I would call you up and I'd say, Laura, I have an offer on your listing. Could you contact your sellers? I would like to come by tonight at 7, or would 7:30 be better? And Laura said, let me call them. So Laura would call me back on a landline and say, Debbie, be at the seller's house tonight at 6:45, I'll be there. I said, okay. So I had everything printed, every disclosure, every addenda, lead-based paint, FHA, the whole shooting match. And I would knock on the door and Laura would say, hi, come on in. And I would go in and I'd say, hi, I'm Debbie. And I got to tell my buyer's story, why they should pick my buyer. Why are we having 40 offers on a listing and then we're all walking around sucking our thumb we didn't get picked? We don't get picked because we don't sell our buyer. And I would say, this is a young couple. They got married a year ago. They're pregnant with their first child. They want to live in Seminole. They want their children to go to Seminole schools. They're going to live in your house forever, blah, blah, blah. And Laura would say, gee, Debbie, thank you so much. I would have a letter from their lender, and I would show it to Laura. Laura would explain it to her sellers. And then I'd say, okay, Laura, you and your sellers take a few minutes to talk about this. I'm going to go out and wait in my car. And Laura got to do a net sheet with her sellers, and Laura got to talk to them and explain the FHA addendum and lead-based paint and all that stuff. And then Laura would open the front door and she'd come out and she'd say, okay, Debbie, we're countering at $2,000 more. Now, I'd already talked to my buyers, and my buyers said, we'll go up $5,000 more if you have to. You have our permission. So I went in and I said, Laura, the buyers will accept a counter offer of $2,000 more. Laura would cross out the price with the pen. We used ink. And we put the new price above it. Her sellers would initial. I'd say thank you so much. I would get in my car and I would drive to the buyer's house. And the buyers initialed the one flippin' change. And guess what we had by 8:30 that night?
Contract.
And everybody knew everybody. Everybody talked to everybody. But now I don't know where everybody's going, they're so busy. But now we live in a crazy world. I sent it over to you. Open it up. Wherever you see a yellow box, click. Get it back to me ASAP. Why are we doing business at midnight? Why are we doing business at 3 o'clock in the morning? I don't know one title person that is going to answer you at 3 o'clock in the morning. I don't know one lender that's going to answer you at 3 o'clock in the morning. A realtor called me, what's today, Thursday? Tuesday night, 9:45. My phone was off. Every night it goes off earlier. So yesterday morning at 7 o'clock when I got my coffee, he left me a voice message this long, and it was nasty. It was about one of the condos I have under contract at Boulevard. It's been under contract since October. The reason it's been since October is because the buyer's getting bond money from Pinellas County, and we are projected to close by the 31st, which it says in MLS. Hey, calling about that property over there on Starkey. What's wrong with it? It's been under contract for a long time. Why hasn't it closed? Don't call another realtor and leave a message like that. So I waited till 9:05 because I start business at 9 a.m. and I stop business. It used to be 9, it used to be 8. Now that it's 2021, I'm done at 7 p.m. I think 9 a.m. to 7 p.m. is justifiable, okay? So, I called him back and I said, hi, this is Debbie Sundahl with Century 21 Real Estate Champions. No texting. I said, I received a voicemail message from you. Exactly what are your concerns about a pending closing? Well, I have a man that wants to buy this. I said, well, he's gonna have to wait. It was, honey, some idiot that came to your open house Sunday.
This past Sunday? Oh, okay. He wants to buy 502?
No, he wants to
Oh,
buy
different one.
236 under contract, a 1-bedroom.
Okay.
And I said, well, why doesn't he buy 502? He didn't like it. I said, well, then you need to go show him 230. See, the reason the man wants to buy it is because it's listed for $71,500. He don't want to pay $90,000. He don't want to pay $100,000. And you know, isn't that crazy?
I think I know which guy you're talking about.
Why are we doing business this way? I said, have you shown him number 236? Nobody wants to buy it. I said, well, why don't you go show him number 230? That was yesterday morning at 9 o'clock. It is now today at 10-something, 10:15. I've never heard from the realtor. But what was so important, Andy, Tuesday night at 9:23 p.m. So many realtors I know I don't know what else they're doing, but it seems like they decide to do real estate at 10 o'clock at night. Well, you're going to be treated the way that you allow people to treat you. And I think, unless you're in the midst of negotiating something, you need to turn it off. If you try to call Ruth Cabela after 5, she will never return your call till the next day. That's why everybody calls me. On Sunday, I had 3 agents and I said, call Ruth. They said, we called, but she doesn't answer her phone. So I had to give her a little lecture on Monday. I said, I'm tired of getting your sloppy seconds. Could you start answering your phone? It's a new year. And after yesterday, we have a whole new world. And I'm going to get my vaccination in the next 100 days, somehow, some way. So let's let all that negative stuff go away and let's just work with what we got going on. But you have to promise me you will print an offer out. Even if you're writing one in a Thenasign to send to a buyer, don't try to read it on your computer, because you know what happens? You get interrupted, the cat jumps on your lap, the dog barks, your significant other says dinner's ready, pick it up, let's go. And when you're doing your work, when you're doing real estate, you do real estate. This woman, how many children in your family?
11.
Thank you. 11. But she has a designated work area at home. And when she goes in that designated work area and she closes the door, I have to do that when my mother's here. I have to go in my office and close the door. And I say, Mom, don't come in here unless the house is on fire. And when I'm finished, I will come and talk to you. Make sure that you are understanding what you're doing. Okay. At the very top of page 2, it says extension of closing date. You all hate this because you're counting on a paycheck on January 31st. And then you text me and you go, what do I do? Well, we're going to read 54 to 60 and it's going to tell you what we're going to do, okay? I am not the shell answer woman. I have forgotten more than I remember. If paragraph 8B is checked and the closing funds from the buyer's lender are not available on the closing date due to the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau closing disclosure delivery requirements, here you go, for the love of God. Do you need an addenda? No. It says, then the closing date shall be extended for such period necessary to satisfy the CFPB requirements, provided it will not take longer than 10 days. Woohoo! Now, let's tell Andy what the heck a CFPB is. Andy, many years ago, in the Obama Health Care Act, that we all thought we were getting free health insurance for the rest of our lives, there was a lot of things in there that affected our real estate career. And one of them is now that the title company cannot make any changes to the closing statement. It all has to go to the lender, the title company, and it has to be approved 3 days before the closing date. So, in the olden days, when life was grand, let's say that the night before closing, the seller called me up And they said, Debbie, my rascal kid went back to college in Gainesville this weekend and he took one of the garage door openers. I said, that rascal. Andy, everybody only has one garage door opener. I don't know where they go, but all I ever get is one. So the seller says, we're gonna go to Home Depot and we're gonna buy another garage door opener, or I would say I would go do it. So I needed to get what? Reimbursed on the closing statement for a garage door opener. And all I would do was take the receipt into the title company and they would say, Debbie Sundell, reimbursement, garage door opener, clicker, $49.99. And everybody agreed life was good. Now, no. It has to go back to the lender, Andy. And the lender has to review the closing disclosure again and give the seller the authority to have Debbie Sundell as a line item to reimburse me $49.99. Also, in the Obama Health Care Act, we were not allowed to go to closings. We're still not, unless you see the paper in your buyer's package. The buyer and seller must sign a form that they are allowing you to go, because now we live in this Privacy Act thing, right? The other thing, all of the title companies had to redo their buildings. They had to install locks on the front door. The front doors must be locked at all times. If I want to go in to drop off an escrow check, they have to come and open the door and let me in. I am not allowed to go back in the bathroom. I'm not allowed to go back in the kitchen and get a cup of coffee or a cookie, because in the Obama health care bill, they felt that realtors were going to go in the title companies and take pictures of people's files and get their social security number and their mother's maiden name and all this crazy stuff. And then I was going to go take somebody's social security number and do whatever you do to commit fraud.
Steal their identity.
What?
Steal their identity.
Yeah, I was going to steal their identity. So, you see, Andy, every single time something changes by law, all of these forms have to be redone. And if you look at the very...
So how do you specify when you have signed the contract, garage key 1 or 2, do you specify or mention it? Do you need specify how many garage key?
So like if you've changed it, say 3 times, are you saying you have to have a different,
You know
do you have to have it noted somewhere that you made 3 changes? Is that what you're saying?
No. So normally here, garage key, 1 key is allowed, right?
Honey, take your mask off. I don't know what you're saying about 1 key.
Okay, garage key, okay?
Garage door opener?
Garage door, yeah,
Garage door opener.
yeah.
Yeah, how many are normally allowed to have here?
Well, I would say you should have at least 2.
2? So if seller thought I want to give 1 and the buyer thought he is supposed to get 2, then when they have closing date, the key was only 1. What happened?
Somebody's got to buy him another one, and we're going to get to that.
So that's why I'm asking you,
Right,
in order to avoid that kind of hazard,
right,
what is necessary we need to write down or take
right.
action.
And see, once again, Andy, this goes back to the listing agent. Listing agents are careless, sloppy pigs. All they want to do is get it live. Remember I told you last week I called on a condo before the holidays? Some little 12-year-old girl. And I said, hi, I'd like to show that tomorrow. showing instructions. Well, I don't got a key. I don't got a key. I said, well, when will you got a key? Well, I don't know. I said, well, it's been listed 85 days. Am I the first realtor that called to show this in 85 days and you don't have a key? She had a listing in MLS that you could not show. No key. So, when I go on a listing appointment, we have the garage door opener talk. We have the mailbox key talk.
Wow.
If it's a condominium and you need a fob, to open up things. And then, once I get a contract, Andy, I take a baggie this big over. And in black marker, I write, stuff to bring to closing. You know how we have those junk drawers
Mm-hmm.
that you go to put your hand in and you get cut? There's bad things in there. The other day I was looking for something and I found a key for the storm door of my rental property. We've never locked the storm door, even when I lived there, right? But my mother has it on a key with a handwritten note what it is. So when the seller is getting ready to close, I encourage them to take that baggie I brought, and when they're clearing out the junk drawer, when they're looking in their car, I was looking in my car the other day, probably for another key. I'm always losing keys. And my God, I found a plethora of stuff. I found a key that will unlock my keyless entry when my battery goes dead at my house. I said, oh, I better put this somewhere really, really important, okay? So today I found, no lie, $150 in Starbucks gift cards in the console of my car with all my nasty old bank receipts and tissues and sanitizer. And so these are things, honey, that I will teach you that must be passed over. Now, if they only ever had one garage door opener, old couple, Mabel and Bernie, she never drove, they got one. If you only got one, you only got one to give. But it always seems like those rascal college kids go back to college with a garage door opener.
Still clipped to their visor.
Yeah. Okay. So, if the lender has not approved the closing statement, you automatically have 10 days without saying, where's the addendum for that? What addenda do I need for that? Okay, you're good. Now, the other thing is,
What is CFPB?
what?
CFPB. CF.
That's what the CFPB is.
So,
The closing disclosure has to be approved by the lender.
so what is the full letter? Full letter. C means.
Oh, honey, what it means is the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau. It's at the beginning of line 55.
Okay.
Oh, my little seller. So nice to me. Calls me sweetie. It was supposed to close October 30th. We're still not close, but he still likes me. Okay.
Oh, sweetie.
Line 58. In an event constituting force majeure.
Force majeure.
Oh,
Sounds serious.
it is serious. We're never going to have this. This, Andy, is a typhoon.
Beyond God.
This is hurricane.
Yeah.
This is atomic bomb. Here's what it means. It causes services, and God forbid. I crack up every single time the internet goes out here. I've never seen people pack up their belongings, lickety split. They're running out the door. I'm like, where are you going? Oh, I can't work, the internet's down. It's so funny, Jeremy, because by the time they get out here and turn right or left, the internet's back on. But we live in a society of no patience. If you ever had the opportunity to teach kindergarten and first grade, you are blessed with more patience than you could ever imagine. Andy, my first year of teaching, I had 93 first graders that I taught every day. 3 different classes.
93?
93 in inner city Erie, Pennsylvania. And Jeremy knows what that was like, okay? So, once again, stop, inhale, exhale, and think about what's happening. So, if there is some unforeseen catastrophe that, God forbid, there's no internet, God forbid there's no electricity, here's what we're going to do. The closing date, once again, you can't text me because your phone blew up. The closing date shall be extended as provided in paragraph G. Now, the last time we had a hurricane, I had a lot of properties under contract. And I loved the smart realtors. Not the day after the hurricane, because we were all a little hot and we were trying to figure out how to get hot coffee instead of hot bodies. And we were surveying our damage and doing all those things, right? But the next day, 3 wonderful young realtors called me up. And they said, first of all, they said, Deb, how are ya? I said, great, little hot. Because how many days did we not have AC, Laura? And they said, okay, we're just calling to check to make sure the property that we have under contract had no damage. I said, we're fine. Everything's fine. There's just no electric there right now. I think in Seminole it took us about 4 to 5 days. So obviously, the title company on Seminole Boulevard couldn't work because they had no electric. If we don't have electric and we don't have internet and we don't have cell phones, the universe stops. Get a cooler, go to the beach, and enjoy every second of no electronic services, right? Okay. But we're not going to have one of those. Now, in Florida, we do not care how they did it up north. Oh, when the people say that to me, Andy, it makes my blood boil. Well, up north in Oklahoma, I said, well, honey, we're not up north in Oklahoma anymore. This is how we do it in Florida. The day of closing, please remember this, goes to the buyer. The buyer's electric starts the day of closing. The buyer's internet starts the day of closing. The buyer's real estate taxes start the day of closing. The buyer's insurance starts the day of closing, okay? Now, in some states, let's just pick on Oklahoma. In Oklahoma, if you close on February 12th, the seller stays for free till February 28th. Now, I don't know how that works with insurance and liability, okay? But in Florida, the whole state, from Tallahassee, from Jacksonville to Key West, and every place in between, makes me want to sing that song, This Land Is My Land, okay? The seller must be out. When the seller goes to the title company, Andy, the morning of closing, no go back. No go back to pick up their dog. Once the buyer goes to the title company and signs their paperwork, that dog belongs to the new owner. They don't go back to get their fish tank. They don't go back to get a chandelier. If the seller has not removed their personal possessions, by the time they go to title, all of their stuff goes to the street. They have no right to go back in. Okay? Now, when you have the sellers, and it's about 2 weeks before closing, you got to start stopping in every day. Because we live in a world of procrastination. And I am the worst procrastinator. If something isn't due till 5 o'clock tomorrow, I'll start it at 4 o'clock tomorrow. But Andy, with these sellers, they don't realize how hard it's going to be to clean out the junk drawer. They don't realize how hard it's going to be to clean out the garage. And now they're in a hurry. And they leave cans of paint from 1962. That my buyer goes to the new house and they pick up the paint cans and it rattles. Right? And then my buyer calls me up and they're grouchy. And they want me to come and clean this stuff out. Not my job. The closing from hell with that Italianadian that couldn't get on a plane last week and got her COVID test too early and all that. That poor guy that bought that condo, he has already taken 46 bags, big black garbage bags, to the dumpster. She left clothes, she left everything you can imagine. But she made him pay her $1,200 for a dining room table, 6 chairs, and a sofa. And then she walks out after she huffed and puffed and wanted everything and left this man with all this stuff. And every day he calls me and I go, Jeffrey, I'm so sorry. Jeffrey, I'm so sorry. Jeffrey, I'm so sorry. So you need to stay on top of your sellers, Andy, to make sure that they're moving along in the process. Okay? Because they get overwhelmed. Like when Laura moved from her big house. Ooh, Laura, how overwhelmed were you?
We just had bring 3 pots, put everything in a pot, and take it, and then we'd go a pot at a time.
Right. Okay. So, occupancy and possession. Unless the box 6B is checked, seller shall, at closing, deliver occupancy and possession of the property to the new buyer, free of tenants, occupants, and future tenancies. So the seller couldn't have leased it to somebody else the night before closing, right? Okay. Also at closing, the seller shall have removed all personal items and trash. That is the old paint cans in the garage. We don't want your old paint cans. They also, Andy, right here, shall deliver all keys, garage door openers, access devices, and codes as applicable to the buyer. Got it? Okay. If occupancy is to be delivered after closing, the buyer assumes all risks of loss to the property from the date of occupancy and shall be responsible for all liability for maintenance from that date. Right now, I have many properties closing that the new owners can't come to because they cannot come across the border from Canada, to the United States. So, let's say they closed January 6th and it's now vacant. And being the nice girl that I am, I go in to check it for them and the toilet's leaking. If I have one more leaky toilet, I'm going to lose my banana split. So, I can't call the seller and say your toilet's leaking because the seller doesn't what? Own it anymore, right? Even though the new buyer owns it, but it's not come, it is now the new buyer's responsibility and liability. Okay? And when these situations happen, and people call me up and water's squirting and carpets are wet and people are not so crazy, and I say, oh gee, I'm just walking in to a showing. I'm not walking into a showing. But I need what? I need more than a minute to process this in my head because they already are hyper. They're already overreacting. And I need to give them time to breathe. Last night at my rental property, 2 doors down, some lady's toilet's leaking and she's old. And she was outside running up and down, telling everybody the water had to be shut off and blah, blah, blah. And of course, my tenants called me and they're all hyper, blah, blah, blah. And I said, tenants, the lady lives 3 doors down. You're not going to get water in your house. It is not my problem. It is not your problem. Now, this is how dumb she is. She hired a plumber yesterday that came out, but the plumbing company didn't know where to shut the water off to her building, to her individual villa. So my tenant's trying to tell me this last night at 8:30, and I'm like, I don't care. I don't want to know. You are fine. And they said, well, she's up running up and down the street telling everybody. I said, well, that's what she has chosen to do. But don't get sucked in to that drama, right? I said, now, if water is coming in your villa that I own, 4 doors down, please call me. And I will call my plumber that will go out 24/7 and knows what they're doing, all right? But people today overreact. They're so hyper. And what if? And I'm going to tell you this all the time. You're going to say, what if? I said, how about we wait till the what if happens? And if the what if happens, then we'll address it. Let's not put gasoline on the fire. You know, we still got a nice fire going. Let's just let it burn out. Right, Andy? No drama. I am in 2021 the no drama girl. All right. Now we're going to take a look. If you buy one of my listings and it's rented, and you're going to get that renter, and you've agreed to this, you're going to get my renter at Timberwoods until July 31st of 21. You're going to need a copy of my lease. I'm going to need to transfer the security deposit to you at closing. And you can't increase their rent till when? August 1st of 21, if you so choose to keep my tenants. Right? Okay. Years ago when Ruth bought this building, we were renting. Oh my God, this is so many years ago. And the guy that bought it, he was a funny little guy. He looked like a leprechaun. He smoked one of those big curvy pipes. And he was about 4'2", red hair. And so Ruth went and closed. He went and closed. Now he was our landlord. So he came in the office. I was right there in that room teaching class and told Ruth he was raising the rent $1 gazillion a month. And Ruth said, you crazy little leprechaun, man, you can't do that. I have a lease. I think we had a 5-year lease, Andy. Well, he bought us for 5 years at the same rent we were what? Paying. Well, he was so dumb and his realtor was so dumb that he didn't know that. So Ruth had to hire an attorney. We had to go to court. And Ruth had to send our rent every month for 5 years to an attorney because that little leprechaun man didn't know what he bought. How could you pay hundreds of thousands of dollars for an office building and not know what you got? At that time, State Farm was in here. We were in here. I think this was a massage place. Before that, this was an ophthalmologist. I mean, this man was dumb, just dumb. So if you are selling anything or you are buying anything where there's a tenant, you know you got to read this very carefully, right? Okay. What about if it's a duplex or triplex and you have coin-operated washing machines in there? You got to divvy up the money for January from the income of the coin-operated washing machine. All of your renter's security deposits are now transferred to the new owner. Does that make sense, Andy?
Yes.
Okay. Everything is prorated to the day before closing, not the day of closing. Just remember, day of closing goes to the new owner. Now we're going to go down to assignability, and this can get you in big trouble. This is one of those things that you don't even look for. And if you do look at it, you don't know what to check. Hi, honey.
Just saying hi.
Hi, we're here.
Hi, Ruth.
Hi.
We don't know what to check because why? We don't know what it means. Duh. Okay. The buyer may assign this contract and thereby be released from any further liability under this contract. Don't ever accept that for your seller. They are what we call flippers. And they want to steal your listing at a cheap price. They want to buy it for a cheap price, but they're not going to close on it. Does that make sense?
Mhm.
They're going to go out shopping and fishing to find somebody else to buy that. But they don't have to close. See what it says? May assign and thereby be released from any further liability under this contract. You got nothing. The next one, I'm okay with this. May assign but not be released from any liability under this contract. When my brother was living in the Middle East working for the government, and he was in downtown Amman, Jordan, with a beard and all kinds of crazy things and carrying a briefcase, this is the honest to God's truth, with $1 million US cash in. He said, I'm going into town today to pay some bills. I said, okay, please be careful. He had a thing with Amir. He had to go out every day and check his car for bombs and all
I had
kinds
an
of
uncle
stuff.
that lived there too, and Tehran.
Yeah. And then he'd call me up and he'd say, yeah, I met some of the local chaps. We went and had some goat for lunch. You know, they'd eat goat in a pan and scrape it up. I said, okay, glad you're alive today. Thank you so much, Jesus. Bulletproof vest, the whole thing. I had complete power of attorney for everything that man did. I signed many real estate contracts for that man. As me, right? As Deborah H. Sundell. But Deborah H. Sundell was never going to close on the property. Who was going to close on the property? Dennis R. Sundell, my brother. So sometimes you're going to come into situations where a family member, a spouse, a mother, a father, somebody has the right to handle real estate transactions for a person. Now, what we always want and what you're going to see most of the time in general real estate is, may not assign this contract. That's what you want to do. If you see number 1, get that yellow highlighter out. Don't ever let your seller sign a contract where the buyer doesn't have to close. Assignability, very important. Okay, now we're going to go down to financing. You all love line 82, cash. Now, when an offer is presented to me and I look at line 82 and I'm doing my happy dance, I'm going, it's cash, it's cash, it's cash, it's cash. Yippee-i-o-ki-yay. I am immediately going to get a hold of the agent that wrote that offer and say what? You did not send me proof of funds. I am not going to call my seller. I'm not going to present the offer until I have a statement from a financial facility that is showing me their money. And a lot of time I ask agents where that is and they go, oh, I know they got it. I know they're good for it. No. Buyers are liars. That's why when we go shopping with a credit card, I can go to Tiffany's today and pick out 10 sets of earrings and 12 bracelets. And oh, that little Tiffany salesperson is going to be licking his chops. And he's going to start wrapping them up. And he slides my credit card through and it says, rejected. And what do we say? Oh, there must be a problem. I can't afford today to go to Tiffany's and buy 10 pairs of earrings and 10 diamond bracelets. But people try to do that. And people are going to try to do that to you today in real estate, right? And you believe them. I had a young couple years ago when I worked with buyers, because you know I don't work with buyers anymore. And they were going to buy a house. I said, great. I said, how are you going to pay? We're going to get money from my grandma. I said, oh, that's lovely. Then you need to have your grandmother send me something that shows that you have $185,000 to cash to spend. Andy, wait till you hear this one. They said, well, grandma's going to give us the money when she's dead. Right here in this room. And I said, oh my God, is she in ill health? No, she's 52. But when she dies, she's going to give me money for a house. I said, well, kids, I love you a lot and I wish you the best of luck, but we can't go shopping. You don't have any money, right? You don't have any money. Why do people think they can buy a house with no money? Sorry, honey, we have to have class in here today. Is there still people in that room? Oh, they left?
That's okay. It's fine.
Okay. I put, what's her name, Han, in that first office.
Oh, she's there?
Well, now because I can't see through the wall. I didn't know who was supposed to be in there. I don't know if they showed up. I don't know what's going on. Okay. Does that make sense about cash? You must see the money. Show me the money. Now, if we're going out with people, we assume that their credit card is going to be accepted, right? If we're going to go to the Don Cesar to the King Charles room for breakfast, lunch, and dinner, I'm not thinking that their credit card is going to be rejected, that I have to dig out my credit card. All right. Now, there's another thing about this cash. And you try to hide this from me, and I will find out. The buyer says they're going to pay cash, Andy, but they're going to get an equity line on their house in New Jersey. Oh, they're going to bring cash if they get an equity line on their house in New Jersey. And I've had many agents who lied to me. Cirilla, can you imagine?
Yeah.
Don't lie to Mother Nature.
I have one right now. I want to share a little bit. This buyer asked for 2 agents to show my listing, and one buyer, and this lady, she said, I will send you an offer tomorrow, Sorella. And the other agent sent an offer for the same buyer to me last night. So this agent called me this morning. He says like, who's the buyer? I said like, this is my buyer. So now they are fighting who's the one gonna be on that offer right now. So buyer is always
Liar.
create, and they're gonna waste your bones, waste your tires, and lie to you. Yeah, I've been there.
See, you don't believe this happens. It just happened to Cirilla last night. You do not say hello. You don't bother us, baby. You do not put them in your car until they have shown you the money. Jeremy, so help me God.
I think maybe we need to start have some buyers sign us a commitment that they will be, we're the only agent and they cannot get out like other agent. They let them sign for 6 months so that they cannot go away for another agent.
But how do you enforce it?
I know.
It's only as good as toilet paper.
So I don't know. But in which I have agent though that she's talking for different.
But Cirilla, at the end of the day, those buyers knew exactly what they did.
Yeah.
They're not good people.
Yeah.
I wouldn't want to work with them.
Okay. So that just
If they're working with 2 realtors and writing 2 offers on the same property with 2 realtors, they can go pound salt. Get out of my car.
the agent calling me that she's gonna call the other agent. So I says like, let me know who is the one, cause I'm gonna have them sign, the owner, let me know what's name is gonna be in that offer. She's like, I will sue this agent. Actually, I says like, actually the buyer is more in charge of that one.
The
Not
buyer's
really
the
agent,
problem.
though. Not the agent, it's
No.
the buyer. Yeah, so that's just fighting right now, so,
No, the realtors got duped.
yeah, right.
Just like I believed on January 4th I was
She's
gonna,
working with him for 6 months.
well,
And
shame
help-
on
help-
her.
Help him to get a mortgage. Now he's using another agent to send an offer.
Angie, out of her lips.
I have right now, it's really true. I have an offer for my listing. Yeah.
No one is to be trusted. But you need to interrogate a buyer. You need to interrogate a seller. But you're not asking enough questions. You're assuming. And when you assume, nothing good happens. Nothing good happens when you assume. Right, Andy? No. Okay. So, if the buyer says, I'm going to pay cash, and I say, okay, I need a copy of your E.F. Hutton. I need a copy of your A.G. Edwards. Oh, and they're all going to get it out of their 401k. Yeah. Until they call their 401k and they find out the penalty they're going to pay. Liars. They are liars, Andy.
So?
And then they say, well, I'll have the cash when? I'm like, you'll have the cash when?
2 years later.
Well, when I get an equity line.
네.
Then they're not paying cash. It's contingent on what?
Loan
and-
approval.
Right. And if you don't catch it and they don't get their equity line, my seller signed a contract, they're paying cash. And they're gonna pay cash come hell or high water. I don't care if they have to go rob a bank. My seller signed what? A cash offer. And then I can always tell the other realtors skating. Well, no, you check cash. Cash is what?
Cash.
And then you wonder why I don't sleep at night. Okay, now, if they ain't paying cash, oh, they're gonna get some type of financing, right?
So maybe even they say, paying cash, we need to double check. How, what kind of cash?
Yeah, no doubloons.
Dear blue.
Yeah, guys, I know you want to believe, and I don't want you to leave here today and say I'm mean and nasty. Because Cirilla just told you what happens. It just doesn't happen to me. It happens to all of us. Okay. If they're paying cash, we need to know if they're getting a conventional mortgage, an FHA mortgage, or a VA mortgage. And don't call me up and say, what kind are they getting? How would I know? You do not put a body in a car unless you have cash letter or lender letter. And I hear agents say this all the time. Anna, oh, I know they're good. And she's driving to Lutz and Riverview and Plant City. And then she finds out they can't buy a candy bar at 7-Eleven. Uh-huh. Okay. So, how are you going to find out what type of loan they're getting? Talk to their lender. And you need to know if it's fixed rate. Is it going to be 2.7% for 30 years? Or is it going to be an adjustable? It's 1.1% for 6 months and then it goes up every 6 months. Because buyers don't understand. They don't know the difference between fixed and adjustable. Not nary a clue. They're getting an adjustable at 1.1. They think it's for 30 years. Huh. No. Right? Okay. Now, line 91. The buyer shall make their loan app for financing. It says if left blank 5 days. Don't you ever leave that blank. I will surround you with love. There is no reason when you get a contract, the buyer can't make loan app the next day. See, you let them wait 5 days, that's called a cooling off period. They're going to decide they don't want to buy that. They stopped in an open house Sunday and now they're changing their mind. Right? Mm-hmm. Very careful, my friend. All right.
So do you put 24 hours in there?
I put 1 day.
1 day?
So if the buyer said, he will pay cash, and then double check what kind of cash. If they say the mortgage company, we need to call the mortgage company and find out real status, right? That is the way, this project really will go or stop in the middle of the process, right?
Right. Yeah, Andy, let's say that you have your house for sale for $1 million.
I hope. I wish.
And I procure a buyer. And the buyer says they don't want to lose your house. They'll pay you $1.5 million cash. They'll give you 30 days for you and your family to find a new house. And you're going to say, Debbie, where do we sign? Holy bananas, good deal. If I don't show you they have $1.5 million and you and your family find a new place to go, you pack up all your stuff and they can't close because they don't have the money, are you going to be happy?
So, okay, I got it. Okay, so a lot of, verbally, people are now verbally talking to buy, right? Not actually. So we need to check their good faith. Maybe if they want to pay $1.5 million, I ask them, the 10% good faith money. Whether they are serious or not, right?
Mm-hmm.
Very good.
Right. But remember, a seller can't get a buyer's escrow back unless the buyer performs all the tasks on these pages. And if I'm your realtor and I didn't have proof of funds, who are you going to be angry at? Because you hired me in good faith to do the right thing. Oh my God. One of my past customers sent me a message last night. I sold her a house on Gulf Boulevard. She has friends coming in April, and she only wants them to go out with me. And she said, "You are the only realtor I would let anyone use because you do all your research and you're not pushy."
Oh.
Wasn't that a wonderful compliment?
Yes.
I'm like, okay, I haven't lost my noodle yet. I'm still good. All right. So, 95. If the buyer can't get a loan during the loan approval period, then that means they're going to default. And the seller is not going to be happy. And there's a huge chance that buyer's going to lose their escrow. This is why you interrogate, Andy, the buyer's lender before you sign this. Do you see now my frustration of everybody wants to sign papers, but nobody's done their homework? You can't wait to get a buyer to sign. You can't wait to get a seller to sign. And you're clueless in Seattle. They never really talked to a lender. They lied to you. The buyer Cirilla has. They lied to 2 realtors. How dumb are they? How could you write an offer on the same property with 2 different realtors? Last night. I'd like to meet those buyers. Wouldn't you, Laura?
No.
So in case, loan default, right, loan not approved, the good faith money returned to seller, right? Huh?
It's not a for sure.
It depends.
Mm-hmm.
So when we sign the contract,
It doesn't mean the seller's going to get the escrow. The buyer has to prove all these things for why they couldn't. Let's say the buyer got fired. Let's say,
no, that is the good excuse, but loan approval default, okay, then good faith money, escrow money, the reimbursed to seller, right? Liquidate damage,
it's negotiable.
negotiable. Oh.
Now, if my seller's under contract and he got fired today
Uh-huh.
and diagnosed with stage 27 terminal cancer and his wife left,
Uh-huh.
is he going to be able to get a mortgage?
No. That is a good excuse.
So I would go to the seller and explain, Angie, if you write this word down, when we're doing real estate, you're so worried about websites and Athena signing and contact management programs and CRMs and PQSs. The only word you need to focus on every day is we're dealing with people's lives. We are.
Yeah.
And that 4-letter word, life, everybody's life can change in a second. Yeah, Andy, it's legal and binding, but that word life gets involved in here too. And if a buyer, I told you this last week, if a buyer can't buy and a seller can't sell, what do we do?
Walk away.
Go to Ruth. And she will call the people and she'll get the skinny and then she'll figure out what we're going to do from there. Okay? Don't you try to disarm a buyer or a seller.
Oh.
This buyer problem with Cirilla is not Cirilla's problem. She has the listing. She has the seller.
Uh-huh.
And that's why Cirilla said the one realtor is going to call the other realtor.
Uh-huh.
The realtors, the two other realtors that wrote an offer on the same property for the same buyers have the problem.
Wow.
That's why you want to have listings. If you get a listing, you're going to get paid no matter what.
It is.
Cirilla's going to get paid. But one of those two other realtors is not going to get paid. Right? And if I was both of those realtors, here's what I'd do. I would refer the buyer to Cirilla and let her pay one of them a referral fee. I would never want to see those people's face again. I would never want to talk to them again. I wouldn't want to break bread with them again. And I wouldn't want them to be in my car. Would you, Andy? They're bad people. They're bad, dishonest people. But we'll have to ask Cirilla tomorrow what happens. Okay.
People are changing nowadays.
Mm-hmm.
But Kansas people, okay, Missouri, Kansas, that area, okay, Tennessee, that area people a little bit more naive and innocent than New York, California.
Andy,
What do you think?
I'm naive. Laura's naive. She is such a nice, good Catholic girl, mother, grandmother. Laura wouldn't say poop if she had a mouthful. But, Laura and I can read.
I think I'm a pretty savvy businesswoman though.
I don't believe anybody. I don't believe any of you until we have talked. I don't believe a word until I get to know you. And that's how I am with my customers. All three of you here today, including Cirilla, I would trust you with my life, my bank account, my mother, my properties. Because I know that the four of you are good people. You would look out for my welfare. You would only do the best. If I fall down the stairs today and I whack my noodle and I'm in a coma, I would trust any of you. But Andy, people have to prove to me that they're good people. And today, people are not good. They're not honest, they're not kind, they're not loving because they're so stressed out. And they're living their world through this. Last night at 6 o'clock, I needed a minute. And I looked at my phone and I said, we're gonna have dinner, phone. And you're gonna take a little nappy for 45 minutes. And I'm not gonna hear you. And in 45 minutes, when I finish my dinner, I turn my phone back on. Are we allowed to do that?
Yes.
Absolutely. Now, if I'm a brain surgeon at Tampa General, and this is my day to be on call, and the chopper's gonna land at the football field next to my house and fly me over to Tampa General to put somebody's brain back in their pumpkin head, I can't do that. But I can do it when I'm a realtor, right? All right, so it says, the buyer shall keep the seller and the broker fully informed about the status of the buyer's mortgage. They never do. You're gonna have a buyer that's under contract and you're not gonna hear anything for 3 weeks. And you're gonna text me and say, I haven't heard anything for 3 weeks, what should I do? I'm gonna tell you, you better be calling. My buyer that wants to close on that condo by the 31st, I texted her this morning. I said, you better be calling the bond money at Pinellas County. Tomorrow's Friday. You know, she did talk to them Tuesday. I said, don't wait till next Monday and call me up and say what's going on. They won't talk to me. They only will talk to who? The buyer. Cirilla, what's happening now?
I talked to Ruth. She's like, you know, I don't have to wait for them. If she wanna fight, if she wanna, the agent, they wanna claim to another agent, then she can do that, but it's nothing to do with me. The buyer has the right to choose who's the agent they're gonna use to send an offer, unfortunately. So if our buyer doesn't, they're not loyal to us, we're screwed. We're just wasting all our effort to show them property and then we could.
So are you gonna present the offer to the seller now?
Yeah, I will call them.
Good.
Yeah, because.
That's what I just said to these guys. It's not your problem, it's the other realtor's
Yeah.
problem.
If she says she has a claim, then they can fight each other, but our job is to present our offer to our seller. Yeah, unfortunately, buyer
Buyer
is
is
really not, yeah.
loyal to you.
Mhm.
Huh?
It's not good. So I have buyer too that she's showing and she's working with 4 realtor. And then the realtor called me, so you two, I will report you to the board.
For
I
what?
will, to get you for ethical because this is my buyer. Then the buyer, I told the buyer, I said, because I don't want trouble. I said, like, I love to show you property, but I cannot show you because you're working with another realtor. And she said, like, no, I don't want him. I want you. If you don't want to show me property, then I don't want to buy any houses. That's what she told me. So if you want me to talk to your broker, then I will talk to her. So I'm helping her to get a house. Because I don't want to show her, because I don't want to this other agent go after me. No, I don't want it. You know, both of us working hard, but she don't want to use him. So, yeah. So we have to marry our buyer. Because they're take them to dinner. I took them to dinner. I took dinner for like 3 times. I thought she would be one time, but I did the whole thing.
You mean with buyer or seller? No,
Buyer.
buyer.
I took her out dinner 3 times.
3 times.
Well, as long as she buy a house, it's fine. Yeah.
So there you go. Isn't it amazing what happens when you show up? Okay. Is everybody good to go on to the top of page 3?
Yes.
All right. Except all I have is page 2s. I got one now. Okay. If the buyer, page 3, if the buyer fails to timely deliver the notice provided above to the seller prior to the expiration of the loan approval period, then the loan shall be deemed waived. You know, your buyer only has so many days to get a loan unless you extend that. Okay. If it's terminated, Andy, by paragraph 8B above and the buyer is not in default under the terms of this contract, the buyer shall be refunded, Andy, the deposit, thereby releasing the buyer and seller from the contract. Everything is going to tell you in here. Does that make sense? Okay. Just want to let you know. All right. We're going to go down to closing. We did this last week when we were working on net sheets. And I want you all to look at where my finger is. See where it says other and there's a big blank line? That is where that realtor had to give $5,000 of his own money because the selling agent typed in there with a typewriter, or she did it online, and it said other, seller to pay $5,000 of buyer's closing costs and prepaid. And that agent, you know what he said to me? Well, I didn't know she typed that in. He thought it was standard of frickin' page 3. I said, I can't even talk to you. I can't even look at you. See, he saw typewritten verbiage and he scanned this whole page and never read one thing. That'll get you, won't it? Okay. And then we have the closing costs paid by the buyer. Now we're gonna go down to title evidence and insurance. How do you get title insurance? The title company will do a title search and they will send that to you for your buyer to review. The title company will automatically do this for you. Don't get all wiggy and crazy and panicky. It's called a title commitment. And you're gonna get an email and you're gonna text me and go, I got this thing from the title company, I don't know what it is. Well, shame on you. If you don't know what a title commitment is, we're all in big trouble, okay? That is the title insurance policy that is going to ensure to the buyers that the seller are giving them a property with clean title. No liens or encumbrances, right?
Right.
Okay. Then we're gonna go down to 158 and 162.
I have a question.
Yes,
Do you
honey.
write, a day in there, or do you just leave that blank is cause it says,
It says 5 days prior to closing.
okay. So
Yeah,
stick with
that's
that.
okay. The title
Okay.
company will get it to you. Hi, honey.
Hi, everybody.
We'll get it to you long before 5 days prior to closing.
Okay.
Okay. Now, who's gonna pick the title company?
Seller, right?
Pardon me?
Is it
Seller.
seller?
It's negotiable.
Negotiable, yes.
Every God's blessed word on this page,
Negotiable.
thank you, Andy, including and, or, above, below, in, out, therefore, and unto. Everything is negotiable. Now, most realtors check box 158, saying the seller is going to pick the title company. You don't discuss it with your seller, you just pick your friends. The ones that give you a Starbucks card for Christmas. The ones that give you chocolates for Valentine's. You are to have this discussion with your seller. The seller might have a family member in the business, someone they want to give the business to, okay? Now, where you're gonna get in trouble with a capital T is if you check 162. I want you to read 162 and 163 and tell me why that's gonna be trouble.
Cause who's paying for it?
Who's paying for it, Jer?
Well, the buyer's paying for it, the second one, 162.
What is the buyer paying for?
Well, all the policy changes, closing services.
Right.
arrangements,
So,
everything.
if your buyer wants to pick his son's fiance of the month, that's fine. But it says that the buyer is gonna pay for the title insurance, not the seller. So, in checking these boxes, you must be very careful. If your buyer insists that they want their son's fiance to close this, we're gonna pray they're still engaged by closing, because that's a little iffy in these days. But where it says, buyers shall designate closing agent and pay for owner's policy, you're gonna cross out not pay for owner's title policy. And everyone's gonna have to initial that word NOT. Any word that you change, as long as it is initialed by all parties, meaning all sellers and all buyers, it is legal and binding in the contract. Does that make sense? You promise?
Sure
Okay.
not. Big pros.
Now, I know Andy will. You have to promise me. Today's Thursday. You have to promise me Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, one of those days, you are gonna read these 2 pages again while the information is still up here. We all know how the brain works. It's up here, but as time marches on, it goes way back there.
네.
Yeah. So while I just pounded it into your heads and it's still in the front, please, please, please read these again.
Okay.
If you come across a question, highlight it and text me the question, okay?
Okay.
Because Andy, I'm gonna make you a real estate champion.
Thank you. That's why I'm your apprentice.
That's why I'm so glad you're here. Okay, we're done. I will see you Monday. Laura, what are you making for football Sunday?
You know, my husband's been craving tacos, so I think I'm gonna do nachos and tacos and like black beans and rice. And
Okay.
something like
Thank
that. I
you.
don't know. What are you making? Have you thought about it?
I'm making ribs.
See, we just did ribs last
I
Sunday.
know. And macaroni salad.
What'd you make this past Sunday?
Spaghetti.
Okay, I'm gonna do spaghetti. I can do that ahead of time. It'll be quick and easy.
How do the women
Awesome.
get the football day meal planning schedule?
I thought about just doing like wings and pigs in a blanket, you know, just snacky stuff, cheese, you know, a charcuterie board and.
I know,
But
but
that does not sound like dinner to me. That's
No,
just snacky
no,
stuff.
I can't have junk for all day anymore. I have to have something. And then don't you love when you ask and they go, I don't care, you just do whatever you want to do.
Maybe like a lasagna, because I could do that early and then just
Yeah,
pop it
see,
in
that's
the
what I'm
oven.
thinking.
See, I almost stole a highlighter in the world's
Oh,
best.
my mom got her first shot at 11 o'clock.
Good.
I can get her a shot, I can't get me one.
Do you want me to call my daughter-in-law and?
Oh, I'll
see if-
just
She
wait.
worked at the health department. She got Tim right in.
Read the article this morning about how people from Canada are coming here